find it and send it. It's real. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Everybody plays lacrosse. Went to a NASCAC school. It's anyway. Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, February 14th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day. It's 9:05 in the morning. This is a Weston Board of Education Financial Facilities and Operations Committee meeting. The first item on the agenda is an update on facility and grounds, but Michael's not here.
That's okay. I can give a quick update.
Okie doke.
Yeah. So everything is relatively quiet. No major issues to report, which is a great thing. The only thing that we have had going on over the past couple of weeks, as you have known, is that we've had a very active weather pattern. So the guys have been out extremely early, salting, plowing, and everything else. And they'll be out again this weekend, doing the same. So hopefully we'll get a break soon. But that's pretty much where we are with facilities.
Okay. Peter, Healthy Initiatives.
Yeah, I attended the first of a 4-part webinar series for sort of navigating the new state of Connecticut HVAC compliance build out inspection regimen that's been implemented. So it's very timely for us. So the first one was on inspection. And I think Michael does a good job there. Mike Delmastro does a good job on that. I think he's in the middle of it now. It doesn't include radon. And then the next one will be on compliance. And then the third one that I'll attend will be, if you're out of compliance, this is what you have to build. So it's actually quite timely for our budget discussions right now. So I'll report back in on my next webinar next time this subcommittee meets.
Okay. The monthly update, then I'll make a comment on something.
Sure. So good news is that we're heading in the right direction. The month-over-month change is not 418,000. That was a typo. The month-over-month change is actually 148,569. So while we do still are projecting to have a deficit for the end of the year, that deficit amount has been reduced from where we were last month. So things are heading in the right direction. We have some concerns, but I'll just step through a few things. Salary savings, we have FMLA savings. We do have a vacant position in the PPS department, the behavioral support position. So that's a 2 FTE position. There was one position that's been vacant since the start of the year, and based on where we are right now, for a variety of reasons, we do not anticipate filling that position for the remainder of the year. Just want to point out that the students who need services are receiving those services by a third-party provider. So at this point, we're just releasing that encumbrance.
Phil, are we saving anything there, or is that cost being partially or totally offset by the third-party costs that we're incurring?
No, we will have some net savings there. Hold on one second. I don't think I have the right report. Hold on one second, guys.
Sure.
Do not think I'm looking at the right report. Yep, I don't have the right report. All right, so we will have some savings there. I'm not sure, guys, if you have the right report. We may need to send that back out. So we have some savings there. That unfilled position is about $79,000. In the aggregate for professional services, I think we're okay in the aggregate. So we're not anticipating any significant deficits in that account. Continuing in line with the SPED PPS department, we're reducing the anticipated legal fees. This is just based on the projected number of hearings that we have for the remainder of the years. I think at the start of the year, we did anticipate having a significant number of hearings. We have completed 1 or 2 of those, and we have made some adjustments for that as well. So we just made a small adjustment I think we anticipated being over by 120,000. We've reduced that by $30,000. Other services, more good news. We have transitioned a few students back to district, which is always good to have the students back. You know, our preferred method of delivering service is always to do that in district. So it's a win for the district, and more so, it's a win for these students having them back in districts. We have also shifted some expenditures from the settlement line. I'm sorry, from the tuition line down to the tuition to the settlement line. So all in all, we're looking at about a net savings. I don't know why my numbers look so off. I'm sorry. Yeah, a net reduction of $289,000. Moving on to electricity or to the supply category, this is the ones where we have some significant concern. So we're pretty much seeing a year-over-year comparison of about a 65% increase on the distribution side. So we have two sides to our bill. We have our supply side. The supply side is at a fixed rate. We have a contract for that. And then we have the delivery side, which is the Eversource charge. So that is significantly up to pretty much where we were last year. Base year over year, about $154,000, or about 65%. So we've made some adjustment. The adjustments that we have made is pretty much to get us where we think we would be based on anticipated usage and also the V&M credits. We're also going to be lower on the V&M credits than where we were last year by about $60 or so thousand. Yeah, I do think that I need to send out a new report, guys. There's another analysis that should have been included.
They have the right one.
Okay, all right. So you guys should. I'm not quite sure if you have that analysis there. Okay, perfect. Right, so as you can see from there, we do anticipate having a V&M reduction less than anticipated by about $66,000. So there was an increase in January. Was about a 0.02 per kilowatt hour increase in the rate, but that's nowhere in comparison to where we were when we had all that credits maybe a year or two ago. At that time, the V&M credit rate was 0.26. So we just have some concerns there. So that's pretty much where we are for electricity. Natural gas is trending slightly over. As you guys know, this has probably been the coldest winter that we have had in recent memories. So we're slightly over on the natural gas side. Not that concerned yet. We'll see how things go for the remainder heating season.
So electricity is mostly consumed by what activity?
Pretty much all activities. So from the moment that we open the buildings all the way to when we close, that's everything.
But you differentiating natural gas, is that dedicated to heating or?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
How's that?
Yeah.
So maybe show some relief from heating in 6 weeks from now, but our electricity is continuing to
Correct.
run at its pace, which is the more expensive deliverable.
Correct.
The distribution number, is it? Kendra, I haven't looked at my electrical bill recently.
It's high.
No, I know that, but is the 60? Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
But is the 65% delta in distribution the same for residential as well?
I'm not quite sure if that is a differential. But it is high for everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at your bill, even comparison, it's been a significant.
No. I mean, it's all over the news about.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is maybe I missed it. What is driving that, Phil? What is driving, because the usage part, of course, you could do something about, but that's not really where we're getting hammered. On the supply front, you can't get around Eversource, right? Because like I said, on the usage, you could actually switch. We've done it here before, but On the supply front, you can't get around Eversource. What is driving that? Because I was taking a look just at the numbers just over the last couple of years. I mean, these numbers are now we're anticipating like 75% increase year over year. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
pretty
the
stark.
only thing. Yeah, the only thing that I can really point to is just that the rates just keep increasing for a variety of reasons. So there isn't any one particular thing that I can point to. There wasn't much guidance from the state or from the utility company as to what's driving it. So the way they frame it, like when I look at my bill, it says that this is the lowest winter generation rate or supply rate that we've had in many years. So it's a nice way of saying that, hey, your rates are going up, but it's not going up as high as what it was last year. So, and this is one of those things where we can control, right? So each time there's a change in regulation, that cost is not borne by the utility company. That's passed on to us. So it's all these various changes, based on changes in legislation and just the pure cost of generation. So I was reading recently that for when we have that cold snap. So right now in the Northeast, the primary source of generating electricity is natural gas.
Right.
When we had that cold snap, I think they switched to nuclear, and they also had to burn oil for like maybe 2 days or so. So we'll just continue to see it. There has not been any significant increase on the natural gas side. I think that's relatively been some spikes, but nothing significant. So we just have to monitor this.
Yeah, I just want to take a step back as Michael generated a thought. You began by saying there's generation, so that's the source, and you just ended there, right? And is that driving the most cost increase? No, it's getting the juice to us.
Right.
So who bills us for that? I thought that was Eversource that bills us for that. That's a party.
Constellation. We have a contract with Constellation.
So the culprit in all this is Constellation. It's not.
No.
No, it's Eversource.
Eversource.
Oh,
They own the wires.
And so it's right. So it's the cost of transmitting the power on the wire and on the poles.
Yeah, that's what you're paying for.
Yep.
I got it. And where does Constellation fit into this?
They're the energy provider.
Supplier, yeah.
Oh, Constellation is the supplier. They create the juice.
Yeah.
Eversource, as I said, is the distributor. They're the wires.
Yeah. They're the infrastructure. Yeah.
Right. And their rates for distribution are quite steep. So you don't have any control over that. But we have a little control over how much juice we suck, right? I mean, but a little bit.
That's not the driver, right? But that's only up like 7% or something, Phil. So the bulk of it is on the other side. Two quick questions on this. VNM credit. So can you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah.
And then
wait. Let me do that one first.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So the virtual net metering. So we do have 2 solar contracts. So we have 2 farms that we partner with 2 separate companies. So we have a solar farm. So each time, it feeds back power onto the grid. For every kilowatt that's generated onto the grid, we pay like a 0.089 cents to send that to the grid. In return, we get a credit from Eversource for doing that.
Right.
Okay. And but that you're saying is less this year. Is that typically pretty steady, or is that volatile, or from year to year?
It not necessarily volatile, but what we're finding is that over time, the credits that we're getting is going down. So if you remember, maybe 2 years ago when we had all these credits coming forward, that was when the supply rate that Eversource was charging spiked. And once that spiked, what that in turn did was that increased the VNM credit rate, and that was like 0.26%, which is unheard of. We've never seen that before. Right now, our current VNM rate as to January was like 0.12, and then we're going up to like 0.14, something like that.
And then my other question. So thanks for that clarification. My other question is, when we're looking ahead here, and this is not a discussion necessarily for that pertains to today, but when we look ahead, then Phil, sort of future budgets, how we're looking at electricity, are you assuming, like, how are you tackling that? Are you assuming that at some point this gets back to, I don't know, trend increases, or like, is this a shot in the dark? Like, is there any guidance that you're getting from anyone in terms of how to think about this in the coming, let's say, months, quarters, years?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
What in terms of how I tend to budget, which we're finding now is probably not the best way, is that because we've been sort of kind of level, right? So normally you're way back when the distribution was about 50% or so of the overall bill. What we have seen in recent years is that edged up to pretty much being at about 1 to 1. Now that has exceeded that. So for our budget, what we have done is that we've taken the average over the past several years. So coming from COVID, where things started to stabilize, we've taken that average, and that's how we tend to budget. So for fiscal 26, we may have some exposure there. Hopefully not significant, but there may be some exposure there in terms of an average. But looking forward to fiscal 27, we may definitely see an increase, not only on the distribution side, but if we don't see reduction or stable reduction in natural gas costs, I do believe that we will also see an increase on the supply side as well. So I think in the near term, as you look at both natural gas and also electricity, those two costs will increase over the next several years.
I just want to summarize, because you began with the light item prognostication for the year. So right now you predict a deficit, right? Because natural gas is you were, let's say, pretty good on natural gas, and then our winter ends. But because of distribution costs of electricity, you predict a deficit for year end. That's correct, right? And what was that number again?
So that's one of the drivers that's leading to deficit. So that change is about 257,000.
Right. The other driver is, in a sense, the credit from generation, but that's small compared to that number. That's an error bar.
Yeah.
So that's the message that we take away, is that we're running a deficit because electrical rates, Eversource rates on distribution. And then just to summarize, I think Michael asked the right question: how do we gird ourselves, brace ourselves for something similar for the fiscal year 26, and even looking further, fiscal year 27. If the assumption is the increases will be linear, then we're really behind the 8 ball, right? I mean, that's pretty expensive.
Well, the increases are known. I mean, any increase that Eversource gets has to be approved by the regulatory agency. So we know what they apply for.
Aren't they approved for like 6 months though, Steve? It's
Yeah.
it's a 6 month cadence, right? Yeah.
So
you have a little bit of a look ahead.
a little bit, yeah.
So if the look ahead is grim, right? Maybe one takeaway is we got to start thinking about diminishing reliance on Eversource. And that's a whole nother discussion.
A small nuclear plant on the property, like they have in New Hampshire.
My guys in Palo Alto are working on fusion. There's like 50 fusion startups. So maybe
it's big in New Hampshire and Vermont.
Yeah, but this ties into healthy building. So we should start scratching our heads a little bit on maybe trying to lessen our reliance on distribution, because it's so costly moving forward. That's a long-term calculation.
I agree. I do believe that, or pretty much the main items that we had for the month. So again, things are heading in the right direction. I do believe that we will more than likely end the year with a balanced budget. We'll start to have a better sense over the next month or two. Typically, once we get to March, April is when we really know where we are. What we will do in the upcoming months is really kind of push people to kind of really get their encumbrances locked for the year. And then that will better guide us for planning for the end of the year.
Okay. So next item is the fiscal 26 budget. We had a meeting Tuesday, I guess it was, Phil, Wednesday, I can't remember which, with the Board of Selectmen on the budget. There really were no questions about the operating budget amongst the selectmen. There were questions about the capital budget, primarily around the HVAC system. We are due to come back to them with a more definitive number, broken down between design and then, ultimate cost. Phil, you chime in here. I get the feeling that they would like to spread this out over 3 years, not 2 years. 3 years in that they were not comfortable with not having an estimate of the design cost. And then if we don't have a number for that, which hopefully we will, they wanted to put that number into the 26 budget, and then the subsequent cost, which is 2/3 labor and 1/3 mechanical, split it into two, which would take this thing out to 2028. But it got even more confusing because they then wanted to only fund part of it and then go back for a special appropriation at some point in the future, which means we have to talk to the Board of Finance. So, Phil, you can chime in here. It's a bit of work in progress.
Yeah, it is. So it's sort of kind of the conversation that the board that you guys had. The good news, right? The good news from all this is that there's a commitment from the Board of Selectmen to fund this project. What they're trying to do is to allocate funds in the year when work is going to be done. So pretty much kind of phasing it. What we don't know, and it's going to be a little bit difficult to have a really strong estimate by early when we return from break the week of the 24th,
right,
is what that number is going to be. What they're proposing, I believe, is to fund for this year that initial cost, that 1/3, right? That will do the engineering. We hope that it will fund the 1/3 to cover the engineering side of it, and hopefully there will be enough money in the 1/3, let's say about 600,000, to also issue a purchase order for the equipment. If there's no money, if the equipment cost is going to be more than that, that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because then it now becomes a 3-year project, because we would not have, the time will not allow for it to happen in the summer of 27, right? So again, it's still a work in progress, but that's the initial thought, is to do 1/3, hopefully have enough money to fund the purchase of the equipment. But again, it gets tricky, right? When you kind of write it out and pencil it out, it gets tricky just because of the timeline of our budget. And to Peter's point, if you don't have that hard commitment, earlier on, it's difficult for a company, if they're busy, to get you on their schedule. So there's just a few nuances, and we'll go back to them next week and have the conversation and talk some more. And if I may, Steve, I think there may be some other line items that we have on the capital budget that we may need to think about differently, or we may need to maybe push that into fiscal 27. But whatever it is, it will not really disrupt any long-term planning for the Board of Education.
No, but Michael, they did look at they asked questions about the security budget. They did that in executive session. We weren't particularly forthcoming about what all the different initiatives are, because for security reasons.
Sure.
But but that was one, that was one conversation about, why $330,000?
Yeah, and look, it's actually a good question, and which is why I met with Jim, I don't know, last week, and Lisa, and I said to them both, I said, look, unlike last year, I actually want to know what the priority is here, what we're spending the money on, and so we'll have to determine that as well. Look, I obviously I'm an advocate for that, but I want to make sure it's money well spent, and so let's see what happens there. On the HVAC system, look, there's the ideal, which I think is what Peter expressed during the Board of Ed meeting, right? To have all the money sort of committed, and so everyone knows, like, we plow forward. And I think there's the practical, which is sort of there are budgetary considerations here. We need to spread it out, which was my point. I didn't realize they want to spread it out over 3 years, right? I suggested 2. I guess the part that I felt queasy about with the whole thing was we don't even know what kind of system, right, where we have the ability to put in. And that's sort of the right question. I would imagine if you break this down, Steve, Phil, Peter, into like 3 parts, right? The design, the engineering, and then the parts, and then the labor. The design is going to be the least expensive part of that, so we could easily fund that this year. The question is, how much above and beyond are we funding? And I have no idea what those relative costs look like, right? So we should have some sort of indication. I guess to your point, Steve, or Phil, we're not gonna really know, right? We're not gonna have done the analysis and know what kind of system we're gonna put in. But at least at the beginning, we could easily fund, I guess, the design portion of this. I don't know. I don't know. Are you thinking, Steve, that it's a flat, I don't know, let's assume we use the numbers, 600K across the 3 years? And if the design is 30,000 or 50,000?
No.
Yeah.
Look, this is a bit of a shell game.
Yeah.
We need the HVAC system.
Yeah. Totally.
We shouldn't postpone it a year.
Yeah.
Just because we don't have the engineering specs.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. True.
So we also told them that it's a bit of a fluid situation. I mean, if we were to fund, let's assume in round numbers, it's $1,800,000. If we were to fund $900,000 this year and $900,000 the following year, and we don't need all of it, well, then we just give it back. Now, yeah, it's in the tax base, but if we need air conditioning, we need air conditioning.
But we have flexibility, right? If we did that, let's say we split into 2, and the 2, I think when we originally discussed it, presupposed that it would essentially be design and parts and then labor, roughly.
Right.
But at that point, if we funded 900 this year, wouldn't we have flexibility next year? We'll obviously know what's sort of,
That's right.
what the next step would be. So we could adjust the 900 next year. Maybe it's 700, maybe it's, whatever. So there's flexibility still if we fund the 900, and it avoids delay. But I think this is the balancing act between, again, what's more ideal and sort of the fiscal, I think, pressures that everyone.
Yeah, but what's ideal is to fund the project.
Right. But we're trying to strike this balance as to how.
I know, but the conversation, yes, I know that part is obvious, but the whole idea of we fund a little bit here, then we have to go for a special appropriation. I mean, that's just a shell game.
Right. I just don't want us to get into a position where they're like, well, we're not going to fund this, right? And so how can we work with that? We have to fund it.
We have to. Yeah. And I know Peter will say, we should fund it right now, because the cost right now, given what's going on in the environment, we're probably, if the cost we think is $1,000,008, given the environment right now, it could come in at, because of the people looking for work, it could come in at a lower number, right, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, this is a healthy conversation, much healthier than I thought the Wednesday night conversation was. You have a known problem and a challenge. You have an environment, and Michael, I'll debunk a little bit. I walked a trade show, right, in HVAC earlier this week. It could have been 1924. I mean, it's ventilators and there's fans and there's air conditioning and heaters. It's not dynamic.
Well, actually, it's perfect, Peter, because that building is built like
Right. It's the same age, right? And it's
Right.
schools. The school, I mean, it's brick and it's got a flat roof and it's got windows. The envelope is understood. And these are understood issues. I think the risk in understanding the design is pretty minimal because some of the crawl space has to be designed around. But they 3D CAD this in some big facility. In a sense, they build it piecemeal, right? So it's already fabricated to the mile. Then they take the screws out, then they put it on the truck, then guys come in and put the screws back in. So this is not building a data center, but there's a little risk in designs, but not enough to say it's such a risk that we better know exactly what we want to do now before we order a part. They could be done at the same time.
Yeah, agreed.
The sooner you order, two things happen. One is, as Steve just said, you'll get a much better price now than you will in 2 years because they're hungry for the business. But also they'll put in place like this mechanism. So your install, right, the labor costs will actually come in less because they're way ahead of the curve. They're already designing and ordering parts. And you'll find on the back end that the labor costs will be less expensive. The more you commit up front, the less the back end will cost you.
I'm not necessarily disputing that at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying it's a delicate balance.
Right. So do not appease is a bad word, but to sort of assuage sort of the tax hit, you end up, is that little assuage worth all the extra cost that you're going to incur just in cost, let alone the kids don't get the benefit for a year? And where I began to building health, there might be a liability issue, right? I mean, if they go in and say, by the way, we isolated the north wing of your elementary school, not the whole picture, you have a problem here. You're not in compliance. You have liability. You better fix it now. And we're like, well, we wanted to do it 2 years from now because that's the way it was funding. Then you've created a liability. So I think the needle for my idealism is actually closer to pragmatic than maybe you do, but it's pretty close to pragmatic. So I'm a advocate for getting it done sooner with commitment now because you just alleviate all those other problems. It will come in at lower cost, quicker. You won't have a liability to kids benefit quicker. And the risk is a little bit of taxation, right? Which is an established risk, but the reward is, I think, outweighs the risk. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Well, we have to come back with harder numbers, so.
Right.
That's
Anyway,
it.
yeah, that just positions it, and then you have to come back with a little better numbers.
Yeah, we probably won't have. We're working on getting a better estimate. Hopefully, we'll be able to have that. Other updates, Steve, on budget, real quick. All right, let me give one real quick. So, health insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's important. Sorry.
Yeah, this one is. So we did finally get the formal update or renewal.
Can I just break in here for 1 second, Phil?
Yep.
If you think Eversource delivered a big number, wait till you hear this one.
Is this from Brown and Brown? Are these the numbers that they're coming in with? Okay, got it.
Okay, let me put my seatbelt on. I'm good.
Put your seatbelt on.
So I told you that a few things. We're waiting on the official renewal from Cigna, and then we also did an RFP for the other carriers. So let me give you an idea in terms of oh, not this one. Hold on. Let me get the right one. Here we go. Perfect. So we got responses from 3 providers. They ranged from 49% to 73%.
Was Cigna in there?
I'm going to give you Cigna in a moment.
Okay.
Their official renewal from Cigna is at 36.3%. So we're pretty much lowballing what we had, because I think we had 30%. So all this to say is that the plan that we have in the budget to move forward with the state partnership plan, we will definitely move forward with that. We will start initial discussions with the unions the week of the 24th to hopefully have an agreement or to get a consensus that everyone will be moving forward to the state partnership plan.
Remind me again of what the increase is at the state partnership plan in percentage terms, just general.
Oh, wait, from where they are right now, we budget at 11%. So it's going to be in the range of 11 to 13% from where they were. But for us, it's a significant increase as well.
For us, yeah, for us. What are they?
So from a premium perspective, we're looking at about close to 30% on the premium portion of it. Where we're saving money is on the contributions to the HSA.
Yeah.
So
And if the union rejects it,
if the union rejects it, all 3 union rejects it, then we are at 36.3%.
but we need unanimity among all 3.
For us to get an automatic acceptance, yes.
Okay, so but if 2 say yes and 1 says no, what
We
happens?
can move forward with 2.
And then the 3rd
We'll
stays,
go to Cigna.
does Cigna rebid it? Because
Well, I think based on where we are, we would have to accept Cigna's renewal rate, because it's the lowest of the.
no. My point is, Cigna bid it with the claims experience on all 3.
Correct.
We go back with 1, and they go, whoa, this one of the hypothetically, this one of the 3 was the highest claims experience. We can't. We have to reassess it.
It changes the risk pool essentially, so they have to they have to rerun the numbers. Is that
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah, you're more eloquent than I am.
Yeah. Well, we'd have to find out if we can, how we have to verify how that information, if Cigna has the groups, or if they have information only by, I think they do, they can break it down by the groups, and it may change, but Cigna may also say that we don't want the business if it's only 1 group. It all depends on which group it is.
Right.
When will we know whether or not the move to the SPP has been accepted by the unions?
We'll have our initial sense the week of it when we come back from break. So hopefully we'll have something final by our next meeting in March.
Okay. One other question, just for clarity. Cigna, you were talking about this 36.3% increase. That's in the premiums, correct? Okay.
Yes.
And there's an HSA, and that we're contributing to that. And so for the SPP, there's a 30% increase, but there's no HSA contribution, right? So there's
Correct.
a little bit of savings in the premium, but the real savings are in the HSA.
That is correct.
Okay, got it.
Right. And also another portion that's added as well is the contribution from the OPEB trust fund, because the retiree premiums are significantly higher on the state partnership plan.
Okay. All right, let us know, I guess. Keep us posted. Good luck.
Yeah.
So that's it for budget updates.
Okay.
The conclusion is you're sticking with the number that was submitted, because that's the best number out there. And
That's correct.
All right. Technology lease.
Technology lease. So may recall that we're embarking on a 4-year plan to have level funding for technology. This is year 3. So we just went out to RFP. This year we had more responses than we did last year, with a wide range of annual rates from 4.14% to a high of 10%. Our practice has been to award the bid to the lowest response. In this case, that would be Cogent Bank. Cogent Bank is a bank that's based in Florida, and I did verify that they're enrolled in the FDIC just to kind of get some.
I was just going to ask you this question. I'm like, okay, so it looks like if you look at these items, right? I mean, there's basically, an $8,000 difference between 6 of them, right? And so, what are the other considerations in terms of risk or servicing that you're taking into account? Because it seems like, okay, if there's one that's super risky here, and I looked up Cogent because I'd never heard of them, and I'm like, Florida. All right, have we ever taken a loan? Have we ever dealt with them before? So I guess not.
Nope.
And I guess you are taking into consideration other risk factors with respect to dealing with this community or commercial bank.
Yeah. Well, listen. So the initial exposure is that we run the risk of not getting reimbursed, right? So they would have to reimburse it. So there's more risk on their side than it is on ours, because we have laid out the money, and with this deal, they're refunding that money, and then we make those annual payments. So yeah, I had that same thought. Ideally, we would have loved to continue to work with First American. The spread is about 6,000 over the 4 years. I mean, ideally, we would love to go with First American. They're easy to work with and stuff like that. But I mean, 6,000 is 6,000. And when we went with First American, we also have never worked for First American in the past. So that 2 years ago, that was the first time that we dealt with First American.
And you can't go back to them. I mean, if you really want to work with them, have you gone back to them?
We have not. We could go back and say to tell everyone to give us their best and final, and see what that looks like. I mean, now that this information is public, it's a little bit difficult to do that, because we just got responses on Wednesday. Listen. I mean, we'll see what it's like, right, to work with Cogent Bank in terms of what their process is just to get this thing to get it closed. If it's onerous, then we probably will say, we may come back and say, we don't want to work with Cogent, and just ask for the board to allow us to work with First American. So we have to wait to see what their process is, because there's some banks where the requirement to close is significant. For First American, it was real simple.
Okay.
Yes. And that is it for updates.
Okay, so next item is just to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I have no questions.
Can we have a motion to approve
I move to approve.
and a second?
I wasn't here, so
Okay,
remember, I couldn't get in. So you're second.
I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. I guess that's it.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks.
fellas.
Thank you, everybody.
Weekend.
Enjoy the rest of your Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.